And now to a crime alert today in Tamarack. Authorities are trying to solve a murder mystery. A woman was found dead in her home earlier this week.
And you your front row seat to justice if you are just joining us.
And we kick off this hour in the state of Georgia.
In a News 3 follow-up, a Rincon woman is behind bars tonight.
A mother shot nearly a dozen times.
What y'all doing? Can you roll the window down for me? Can you roll the window down for me?
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Truly Criminal Network.
Person's case to a murder case. We're learning new details about what led up to those charges. It's been a little more than 3 weeks since 30-year-old Jamilla Smith's mom reported her missing. Authorities say she was last heard by a 911 operator screaming and saying her ex-boyfriend was breaking into her home. Investigators arrested her ex, 34-year-old Daniel Harmon, days after Jamilla Smith went missing, charging him with kidnapping and domestic violence. He's still in jail tonight.
911, what's your emergency? He's breaking in. Please, he's breaking in my house. The terror in Jamilla Smith's voice cuts through the static of the emergency call. Her words rush together, breathless and desperate. My ex-boyfriend, Daniel Harmon, he's kicking in my door. December 2nd, 2023, 9:47 p.m. A night that began with a young mother of two tucking her sons into bed would end in a nightmare that no one saw coming. Ma'am, what's your location? Beach Island. The sound of splintering wood interrupts her. Oh God, he's inside. The 911 operator attempts to gather information, but Jamila's voice grows more frantic. The recording captures footsteps, heavy, determined, relentless. Then Jamila screams a desperate plea. Daniel, please, don't do this. Think about our kids. The line remains open, but Jamila is no longer speaking to the operator. What happens next unfolds in real-time audio. A documentary of terror recorded by an emergency system designed to save lives. Get in the car. A man's voice, commanding and cold. No, I'm not going anywhere with you. The sounds of a struggle follow, the shuffle of feet, objects falling, doors slamming, then the unmistakable roar of an engine. Help me. Somebody help. The 911 operator dispatches officers immediately, but Jamila's voice grows distant from the phone. She's being forced outside. Tires screech against pavement. The phone, still connected to emergency services, captures the acceleration of a vehicle. A 2023 Dodge Charger, rented under Daniel Harmon's name just hours earlier. Please stop. Let me out. Her voice competes with the growl of the engine, each word more desperate than the last. Jamila knows what Daniel is capable of. She has the bruises from November to prove it. The recording continues for 3 minutes and 27 seconds after Jamila's last audible plea. 3 minutes of engine noise, muffled sounds, and finally, silence. Police arrived at her empty Beach Island home 8 minutes after her call began. The front door hung from broken hinges. A single shoe lay in the driveway. A child's teddy bear sat abandoned on the porch steps. But Jamilla Smith was gone. For the next 5 months, her absence would leave an unfillable void in the lives of her two young sons, Noah and Moses. Her mother, Tina McCraw, would spend countless hours distributing flyers, organizing search parties, and begging for information about her daughter. All while Daniel Harmon walked free. All while authorities had yet to find a single trace of the 30-year-old mother. All while evidence sat unprocessed and warning signs remained ignored. You're probably wondering how this could happen. How a woman who called for help could vanish so completely. How a system designed to protect could fail so catastrophically. Those are the questions we'll answer in today's investigation. This is the story of Jamilla Smith, not just how she died, but how she lived. This is about a mother whose love for her children was limitless, a daughter whose faith gave her strength, and a woman whose trust was betrayed in the most profound way. If you want to understand how domestic violence escalates from control to murder, subscribe to Truly Criminal Network now. Hit that notification bell to ensure you never miss our investigations into cases that expose the gaps in our system. Because what happened to Jamilla Smith wasn't just a tragedy, it was preventable. And understanding how it happened could save someone you love. Born May 26, 1993, Jamilla Millie Shanae Smith's world revolved around her two young sons, Noah and Moses. At 30 years old, her days were structured around their needs: school drop-offs, homework help, bedtime stories. Family members recall how she would light up when talking about her boys' futures. "They're going to have opportunities I never had," she'd tell her mother during their weekly Sunday calls. Photographs recovered from her Beach Island home show a meticulous mother who documented every milestone: first steps, preschool graduations, birthday parties with homemade cakes shaped like superheroes. Her phone, later recovered from her residence, contained over 2,000 pictures of her sons, evidence of a life centered around two small boys who now face growing up without their mother's guiding presence. Jamila grew up in a household built on structure and resilience. Her stepfather, Pierre McCraw, and mother, Tina, raised her within the military community, moving between bases during her formative years. The military lifestyle taught her adaptability, Tina explained in her victim impact statement. She could make friends anywhere and understood different cultures in ways most people never experience. May 2023 marked a transformation in Jamila's life, a recommitment to her faith that those close to her described as profound. She began attending church regularly, volunteering at community outreach programs, and speaking openly about overcoming past struggles. She found strength in her congregation, her pastor would later testify. Jamila wanted to build a foundation of faith for her children, something solid they could stand on when life got difficult. Jamila's personal motto, "Ride or Die," reflected her approach to relationships. Friends described her as fiercely loyal, someone who stood by her commitments even when circumstances turned difficult. Text messages recovered from her phone reveal how Daniel Harmon exploited this quality. "If you really love me, you'll prove it." Read one message sent 3 weeks before her disappearance. "Real women stand by their men, no matter what." When Harmon faced financial difficulties in October 2023, Jamila offered her savings, money she had set aside for her son's education. When he needed transportation, she lent him her car despite needing it for work. This same loyalty led her to drop domestic violence charges against him in early November, believing his promises to change. "He just needs someone to believe in him," she told her sister in their last conversation. Jamila had mapped out her future with precision. A notebook found in her bedroom detailed 5-year plans: a nursing degree, homeownership, college funds for Noah and Moses. "Next year is our fresh start," she wrote in her journal on November 28th, just 5 days before her disappearance. "New opportunities, new beginning." Her calendar showed appointments with financial advisors, school tours, and community college registration dates for the January semester. Meanwhile, security camera footage from her neighbor's house captured Daniel Harmon driving past her home 17 times in the week before December 2nd. Police records show Jamila had inquired about restraining order procedures on November 30th. The warrant for Harmon's arrest, following the November strangling incident, remained unserved. Her path forward and his obsession were on a collision course that would end in tragedy. Daniel Gabriel Harmon, 34, presented two faces to the world. To colleagues at the warehouse where he worked sporadically, he was quiet, unassuming, not someone who stood out. To Jamila, he was increasingly unpredictable and controlling. Friends revealed that Harmon monitored Jamila's social media accounts, demanded access to her phone, and isolated her from family support. Classic tactics that escalated over their 8-month relationship. He couldn't handle that she was planning a life that might not include him, Detective Claire Paulson noted in her case summary. By December 2023, Jamila had begun taking steps to distance herself from Harmon, changing her phone number, asking neighbors to watch her house, and most significantly, making preparations to move to a new apartment where Harmon wouldn't know the address. Her plans for independence would tragically be cut short on December 2nd. 1 month before Jamilla Smith's disappearance, police were called to her home by a concerned neighbor. The responding officer documented what he found: Jamila with visible marks around her neck, struggling to speak above a whisper. "He grabbed me from behind," she managed to tell the officer. "I couldn't breathe." The police report, dated November 5, 2023, includes photographs showing deep purple bruising in the shape of fingerprints across her throat. Medical reports from her emergency room visit that night noted significant trauma consistent with strangulation and petechial hemorrhaging in both eyes, a telltale sign of oxygen deprivation. Jamila filed formal charges against Daniel Harmon that night. She described how an argument over text messages on her phone had escalated until Harmon pinned her against the kitchen wall, cutting off her air supply until she nearly lost consciousness. Her sons had witnessed the entire attack from the doorway. The November 5th assault that put Jamila in the emergency room should have triggered immediate protective measures. Instead, it exposed a system in disarray. An internal review would later reveal a series of catastrophic oversights. Jamila's case was mistakenly classified as non-priority due to a clerical error. Follow-up calls from her went undocumented. Reports of Harmon's vehicle near her home weren't cross-referenced with existing case files. The paperwork sat unprocessed for 27 days, admitted County Sheriff Jason Mitchell in a subsequent press conference. By the time we recognized our mistake, Ms. Smith was already missing. An audit of the department's domestic violence protocol revealed that Jamila's case wasn't an anomaly. Over 40% of domestic violence reports faced similar delays. "We had every tool needed to prevent this tragedy," stated prosecuting attorney Michael Wilson. "The danger was documented, the paperwork was filed, the system simply failed to act when action would have made all the difference." Text messages recovered from Jamila's phone revealed Harmon's methodical isolation tactics. In September, he questioned her about male coworkers. By October, he was demanding she share her location at all times. "Who's watching the kids tonight?" reads one message. "Send me a photo to prove you're home." Friends reported that Jamila gradually stopped attending social gatherings. She withdrew from her church community. Her mother noted fewer family visits. Financial records show Harmon had gained access to Jamila's bank accounts. Unexplained withdrawals began appearing in late October, small amounts at first, then larger sums as December approached. Harmon installed a tracking app on Jamila's phone without her knowledge. Data from the app showed he monitored her movements constantly during the final weeks of November. Home security footage from November 29th shows Harmon parked outside her house from midnight until 4 a.m., watching her windows, a behavior criminologists identify as surveillance, a precursor to violence. Jamila's journal entries provide insight into her complicated emotions. "I know what people think. Why doesn't she just leave?" she wrote on November 15th. "They don't understand how much harder that is than it sounds." Her situation reflected common barriers to escape: financial entanglement, fear of escalation, concern for her children's stability, and intermittent hope that Harmon would change. When victims attempt to leave, their risk of homicide increases by 75%, explains Dr. Rebecca Johnson, domestic violence researcher cited in court documents. They're making a life or death calculation with imperfect information. Data from Jamila's case mirrors national statistics. She had attempted to separate from Harmon twice before. Each attempt was followed by increased monitoring and threats. "He told me nobody else would ever love me." Jamila texted her sister on November 25th, said if I left, he'd make sure I regretted it. 1 week later, her fears became reality. What you're witnessing in Jamila's story isn't rare. Right now, thousands of people are trapped in relationships where control has evolved into violence. But there's something more disturbing about this case. The system knew. Authorities had documentation. Healthcare providers had treated her injuries. Neighbors had made calls. And still, nothing stopped Daniel Harmon from breaking into her home that December night. If you know someone exhibiting controlling behaviors, monitoring their partner's movements, isolating them from family, showing extreme jealousy, don't wait for bruises to appear. Those behaviors often precede physical violence. Subscribe to Truly Criminal Network now and share this video, because awareness can interrupt these patterns before they end in tragedy. In our next segment, we'll take you hour by hour through December 2nd, the day Jamila made that desperate 911 call, and the last day anyone would see her alive for 5 long months. 9:15 p.m. Jamilla Smith finishes a phone call with her mother, Tina McCraw. They discuss Christmas plans for Noah and Moses. 9:32 p.m. Security footage from a neighbor's doorbell camera captures a rental Dodge Charger circling the block 3 times. 9:40 p.m. The vehicle parks 2 houses down from Jamila's residence. 9:40 p.m. A figure approaches Jamila's front door, knocks forcefully, then moves to the back entrance. 40 p.m. Sounds of glass breaking are reported by adjacent neighbors. Jamila places her 911 call, reporting Daniel Harmon breaking into her home. 9:40 a.m. The call captures sounds of a physical struggle and Harmon demanding she get into his vehicle. The Dodge Charger speeds away from the neighborhood. 9:50 p.m. Police arrive at Jamila's empty house, finding the door broken and signs of a struggle. Harmon's cell phone pings near Silver Bluff Road in Aiken County. The rental car stops for approximately 28 minutes in a wooded area. The vehicle continues to a gas station where surveillance cameras capture Harmon alone, purchasing cleaning supplies and new clothes. By morning, Jamilla Smith is officially reported missing by her mother. The crime scene at Jamila's Beach Island home told investigators a violent story. The back door frame was splintered, with the deadbolt still engaged, evidence of significant force used to gain entry. Wood fragments scattered across the kitchen floor marked the intruder's path. The perpetrator didn't attempt to conceal his entry, noted Detective Reyes in his initial report. This wasn't stealth, this was rage. Inside, overturned furniture created a trail from the kitchen to the living room. A lamp lay shattered beside the couch. The coffee table had been pushed against the wall. A framed family photo was found broken, the glass cracked in a pattern consistent with being thrown or stepped on. Jamila's phone, recovered from behind the sofa, had remained connected to the 911 call for nearly 4 minutes after she was removed from the home. The operator heard everything, but could do nothing to intervene. In the children's bedroom, investigators found the covers still tucked in. Noah and Moses had been staying with their grandmother that weekend, a coincidence that likely saved their lives, but meant no witnesses were present to provide immediate details about the abduction. Blood droplets near the front entrance would later match both Jamila and Daniel Harmon. Forensic teams documented multiple evidence types linking Daniel Harmon to the scene. A shoe print in the soft ground outside Jamila's window matched the tread pattern and size of boots later recovered from Harmon's apartment. Partial fingerprints on the broken door frame corresponded to his right index and middle fingers. Most damning was the 2023 Dodge Charger rented under Harmon's name just hours before the abduction. When authorities located the vehicle 3 days later, it had been meticulously cleaned, but not thoroughly enough. Despite attempts to sanitize the vehicle, luminol testing revealed substantial blood evidence in the trunk. Forensic technician Lisa Nguyen testified. DNA analysis confirmed it belonged to Jamilla Smith. Additional evidence included fibers from Jamila's sweater found embedded in the trunk carpet and a receipt for cleaning products purchased at 10:52 p.m. on December 2nd. Harmon's cell phone data placed him at Jamila's residence at the time of the 911 call, then tracked his movement to the wooded area off Silver Bluff Road, information that would become crucial months later when investigators returned to search for remains. The evidence painted a clear picture of abduction followed by attempted concealment. December 3, 2023. Tina McCraw reports her daughter missing after finding her home empty and damaged. December 4. Local media broadcasts Jamila's photo and details. Search volunteers assemble. December 5th. After a tense standoff with Aiken County deputies, Daniel Harmon is apprehended. He denies involvement in Jamila's disappearance, claiming he hasn't seen her in weeks. December 7. Authorities locate the rental car at a long-term parking lot. Forensic teams begin processing it for evidence. December 12. Harmon is formally charged with kidnapping based on the 911 call and physical evidence. January 2024. Ground searches focus on areas where Harmon's phone had been active on the night of December 2nd. February 2024. Investigators interview Hampton and Hendley after phone records show multiple calls between them and Harmon on the night of the disappearance. March 2024. Underwater teams search ponds and waterways near Silver Bluff Road without success. April 19th. Brian Alexander Hampton Jr. turns himself in, facing charges as an accessory after the fact. May 3rd. Clyde James Henley Sec is arrested following execution of a search warrant at his residence. Throughout these months, Jamila's family maintains a constant presence at press conferences, search efforts, and court hearings, refusing to let her case fade from public attention. On May 10, 2024, 5 months and 8 days after Jamila's disappearance, investigators made the discovery her family had both dreaded and needed for closure. Following information provided by Hampton as part of a plea negotiation, search teams returned to a previously examined wooded area near the 2100 block of Silver Bluff Road. This time, they focused on a location approximately 400 yards deeper than their earlier search perimeter. The remains were discovered partially covered by foliage and natural debris, the official report states. Positioning suggested an attempt to conceal rather than a natural placement. The Aiken County Coroner's Office conducted a thorough examination, confirming through dental records that the remains belonged to Jamilla Smith. The autopsy revealed multiple gunshot wounds to the head as the cause of death. The evidence indicates the victim sustained fatal injuries shortly after the abduction, the medical examiner concluded. Ballistic evidence recovered from the scene matched a firearm registered to Harmon, providing the final link in the chain of evidence connecting him directly to Jamila's murder. With this discovery, prosecutors amended the charges against Harmon to include first-degree murder, while building cases against Hampton and Hendley for their roles in concealing the crime and misleading investigators during those 5 long months of searching. Daniel Harmon didn't act alone. Brian Alexander Hampton Jr., 35, his cousin, became instrumental in the aftermath of Jamila's murder. Phone records revealed Hampton received 6 calls from Harmon on the night of December 2nd, with the first occurring just minutes after the abduction. GPS data from Hampton's vehicle showed him meeting Harmon near Silver Bluff Road at approximately 11:30 p.m. Clyde James Henley II, 46, entered the picture the following morning. Store security footage captured him purchasing prepaid phones, later used by Harmon to communicate while avoiding detection. Family loyalty became criminal conspiracy, Prosecutor Wilson stated. Hampton provided transportation and helped dispose of evidence. Hendley assisted in creating false leads. The 3 men formed what investigators termed a coordinated effort to hide Jamila's body and destroy evidence that could link Harmon to her disappearance, extending her family's agony for 5 unnecessary months. Text messages recovered from the prepaid phones purchased by Hendley revealed a calculated plan to direct investigators away from Silver Bluff Road. "They're looking west. Keep it that way." Harmon texted Hampton on December 8th. The trio created false sightings of Jamila. Anonymous tips about her being spotted in Georgia were traced back to the prepaid phones. A social media account using her name, created after her disappearance, sent messages to friends claiming she had left town to clear her head. Hampton used Jamila's credit card in Columbia, South Carolina on December 10th, an attempt to suggest she was alive and traveling. Most disturbing was Hendley's role in planting items belonging to Jamila near a lake 20 miles from where her body was actually hidden. Her jacket, deliberately placed where search dogs would find it, diverted critical resources from the true location for weeks. Daniel Harmon's arrest on December 5th came after a 2-hour standoff with Aiken County deputies. Initially charged with kidnapping and second-degree domestic violence, the discovery of Jamila's remains in May led to additional charges of murder. Brian Alexander Hampton Jr. turned himself in on April 19, 2024, following intense pressure from investigators who had connected him to the case through phone records and witness statements. He faces charges as an accessory after the fact to murder, with potential sentences of up to 15 years. Clyde James Henley II was taken into custody on May 3, 2024, when a search warrant executed at his residence uncovered Jamila's personal items, her wallet and house keys, hidden in his garage. Like Hampton, he faces accessory charges, with additional counts for evidence tampering and obstruction of justice. All 3 men were held without bail pending trial. The investigation gained momentum in April 2024, when Hampton's girlfriend came forward with crucial information. She reported overhearing Hampton and Harmon discussing what they did with her during a late-night conversation in February. This tip led investigators to focus on Hampton, whose subsequent interrogation revealed inconsistencies that ultimately cracked his resolve. Hampton provided details only someone involved could have known, Detective Reyes noted in his report. The precise location where Jamila had been taken, the weapon used, and the efforts to hide her remains. A subsequent search of Hampton's garage uncovered a shovel with soil samples matching the Silver Bluff Road location. His phone contained deleted photos of the wooded area where Jamila was eventually found. The combination of this physical evidence, digital records, and Hampton's eventual cooperation provided the breakthrough needed to locate Jamila's remains and solidify cases against all three suspects. The prosecution's strategy has focused on presenting the crime as a premeditated murder following a pattern of escalating domestic violence. The 911 call, preserved as digital evidence, serves as the cornerstone of their case, allowing jurors to hear Jamila's terror in real time. Defense attorneys for Harmon have attempted to contest the reliability of the forensic evidence, particularly questioning the chain of custody due to the 5-month time gap between the crime and the discovery of remains. Hampton's legal team has pursued a cooperation agreement, offering his testimony against Harmon in exchange for reduced charges. Henley maintains his innocence, claiming he was unaware of the true nature of the assistance he provided. As the case moves toward trial, the prosecution has assembled what they describe as overwhelming evidence, connecting all three men to both the murder and the elaborate cover-up that followed. A conspiracy that prolonged a family's suffering and nearly succeeded in permanently hiding the truth. Jamilla Smith's case transformed from personal tragedy to public cause when media outlets like Post and Courier and WLTX covered not just the murder, but the system that allowed it to happen. Public outrage grew as details emerged about the unserved warrant and missed opportunities for intervention. Local government officials faced tough questions at town halls and public forums. Within months, the county council approved funding for additional domestic violence investigators. The state legislature introduced Bill 217, known informally as Jamila's Law, requiring mandatory arrest in cases with documented strangulation, addressing the exact failure that cost Jamila her life. "My daughter's voice was silenced," Tina McCraw told a packed courthouse during a hearing for Daniel Harmon. "But mine won't be." Since Jamila's death, Tina has transformed grief into action. She established the Jamilla Smith Foundation, which raises funds for families affected by domestic violence. The organization focuses particularly on providing safe housing options for victims with children, addressing the financial barriers that often keep people trapped in dangerous relationships. Every Sunday, Tina visits local churches to share Jamila's story, emphasizing the importance of community support for victims. Her presentations include photographs of her grandchildren, Noah and Moses, now growing up without their mother. Jamila's case exposed critical gaps in how domestic violence calls were prioritized and tracked. In response, local law enforcement implemented new procedures. 1. All domestic violence reports now receive expedited processing with 48-hour maximum response time. 2. Previous incidents are immediately cross-referenced when new calls come in. 3. Specialized units now include victim advocates who maintain contact throughout the process. 4. Regular welfare checks are mandated for victims who report physical assault. 5. A multi-agency review board now examines all domestic violence homicides to identify missed intervention points. These changes have already resulted in measurable improvements, with protection order enforcement rates increasing 78% in the 6 months following implementation. If you recognize the patterns discussed in Jamila's story in your own relationship or someone you know, immediate resources exist. The National Domestic Violence Hotline provides 24/7 support at 1-800-799-7233, with trained advocates who can help create safety plans. Local shelters offer emergency housing, often with accommodations for children and pets. Legal aid organizations provide free assistance with protection orders and custody arrangements. Most importantly, experts emphasize that leaving requires planning. The most dangerous time is when attempting to leave, so reaching out for professional support before taking action can make the critical difference between safety and becoming another statistic. Jamilla Smith's story ends with both justice and change, but too late for her to see her sons grow up. For every case that makes headlines, countless others unfold in silence. Your awareness could interrupt this cycle for someone in your community. Subscribe to Truly Criminal Network and share this video to spread vital information about domestic violence warning signs. Because somewhere, right now, someone is making the same calculations Jamila made. Weigh loyalty against safety, love against fear. The difference between Jamila's outcome and theirs might be a friend who recognizes the danger signs and knows how to help. One conversation could save a life. Start it today.